How do you differentiate yourself when right now there are so many vendors that the buyer is just overwhelmed? Now, there's another organization that's celebrating their 20th anniversary. Is anyone here renovating their house or currently doing a home renovation? They're watching HGTV way too much. What room are you renovating right here in the front? Building for 2 years. So she'll be at the bar later. That's a lot, I'm sorry. Are you in the painting selection mode yet? Have you picked colors for any of the rooms? The painting is hardest, I think.
It's insane.
Do you know what the Pantone color of the year is? Have you heard of this?
I'm not sure what it is.
I'm going to tell you. Okay. If you're not familiar with this and you're painting a house, then you probably get marketing around the Pantone color of the year. Every single year since 1999, they have chosen a color of the year. And it's indicating what's in style right now, what's in vogue, what represents kind of the culture, the moment. And, 2001 was the color of fuchsia rose, for example. 2019, I'm about to tell you what the color of the year is. Are you ready? Ladies and gentlemen, it is living coral. Little fish for good measure. And every single year they decide that this is the stated color that they see in fashion, they see in design trends, and a lot of marketers actually kind of follow these guidance. If you're a designer or like me, just a nerd who likes to look up hex codes for fun, this is like an announcement you look out for every year. They've been doing it for 20 years. Now, I spent a lot of time, Tyler, do you mind holding up, I'm sorry that you're tweeting, I know, but is there, you hold up the pharmacy, the big book right there. Okay, so many of you are advertising in this Platinum Pages. Thank you, Tyler, Vanna White over here. It's this thick, if you haven't seen it, there's copies out there. I spent a lot of time with these Platinum Pages, which is a buyer's guide for your buyers, okay? And I was going through them and I was reading about what you guys were advertising. I wanted to get to know your space and some of the vendors. Thank you, Tyler, that was great. And I found a couple trends. I have a question for those of you. I've never marketed in this space. And I'm wondering if there's an unspoken rule about using the color blue, specifically that color blue. And I don't mean, again, I'm gonna call some of you out on this. Some of you are like, that's my ad up there. I'm not calling you out, but if you start to look at this and flip through that book, it's all this color blue. Look at the boxes on the table. Samantha, is this like the color of the pharmacy marketing industry? So I started to think, if I was Pantone, what would I call these colors? So officially representing the 2019 pharmacy marketing colors of the year, I call it Sterilize Me Blue, Is It Hazardous Blue, and of course, Little Blue Pill. These is apparently the color palette that you all get to choose from. I also noticed some other trends in that book. Now again, I'm about to call some people out. I have hidden logos for protecting the innocent. Don't take it personally. We're in marketing. This is a professional conference. There's this use of the focus exchange in the messaging, not only the color, but what you're saying in that copy. Focus on your customers, we'll focus on you. Someone's like, that's mine. Focus is on your pharmaceutical and medical needs, so you can focus on patient care. And down here, reclaim time spent doing something so you can focus on what matters most. These are 3 different ads, but they sound like the same vendor. The key here is, if somebody reads your ad and your logo isn't there, can they tell that it's you? If you're one of these companies, I'm sorry. Let's go to the bar, come up with some new value statements. Let's come up with some new copy. And I know I'm being doom and gloom, and I know I'm calling you guys out, but I'm a big fan of the 4th century Chinese military theorist, Sun Tzu. He would totally be like an influencer today if he was around. In the midst of chaos, there is opportunity. Now, he's talking about war and death and killing, but I'm talking about what we do every day. We have a decision to make. We can go back to 1999 and pretend like the world is still the world of that snake game, or we can evolve. We can be honest and tell the truth about what's going on today and look at it like an opportunity to improve. So, I've given you guys a curse. I've called you cursed and hexed. I've shown you some shameful examples, and I do have more. I want to give you some strategies. These are my 3 recommended ways to break this curse. I'm going to go through them. I have examples. You can each start to use these tomorrow. Russ, in the morning, actually talked a lot about this first one, first thinker advantage. I'm then going to talk about getting personal in B2B, and then we're going to finally finish with being radically transparent. None of this is rocket science. This is just what good looks like. You ready? Question. How do buyers build that short list? How do they put vendors on their radar to start comparing? In 1999, the path to sale was kind of explicit. It was an RFP process, request for proposal. You heard exactly what the buyer wanted because they told you. We're looking for a vendor that meets these criteria. Please send us your proposal, right? Explicit criteria, straightforward. You knew exactly the parameters that you were going to compete on. In 2019, the buying parameters are set by this implicit buying process. What I mean by that is people are doing Google searches to answer their problems. They're reading your ebooks, your white papers, your blog posts. They're attending industry events like this. They're doing word of mouth research. They're looking for peer recommendations. It's a much longer sales process, and it's one that is implicit in its criteria. You don't quite know what you're competing on. I think you need to set the tone. You need to set the parameters. Russ talked about this with that phrase that 6 years later came into the lexicon of their buyers, right? Great example of what I'm talking about. Set the tone, set the parameters for your buyer, and you come out on top. I'll give you an example of what I mean. The three most important factors in making a decision were studied by a group called Topo out in California. They study kind of B2B software purchases and B2B purchases that are not software, so hardware, things like that. They asked, how do you make a decision and make your short list about vendors? And what they found were three things that you have to bring to the table. Number one, know my business, knowledge and understanding of unique business issues. Your buyer needs to know that you understand what they're facing every day. You have to indicate that. Number two, knowledge and understanding of the industry. Know the industry that you are in. Know your competitive set. Know the trends, right? This is that expertise that we kind of throw around that we have to portray. Number three was the most interesting to me. Fresh ideas to advance my business. It actually sounds obvious, but I wonder if you were to go look at your website today and the content you're providing, is there a fresh, new idea for the buyer? Help me win is what I think buyers are really saying when they're saying fresh ideas to advance my business. Now, I look at this like a marketer would, and I say, okay, what do we call this? I gotta come up with a name for it. We've all heard of first mover advantage, right? Which is first to market typically has an advantage. We don't get to be first to market anymore. There's too many vendors in our space already. So, we need to be first thinkers. Forrester found that most buyers choose the vendor that was the first to provide value and insight in a deal. Product quality be damned. We're talking about who was first to come up with a new idea about how to solve that problem. Who was first to frame it in a new way? I don't just mean providing this in the content that your buyers are now doing their research for, that implicit buying cycle. I'm also talking, because we're in B2B, right? I'm also talking about that ABM effort, where you're penetrating a target account, or you're doing a cold call, or you're sending an email to someone who's not heard of you. That's a reality for us. But if you look at the inbox of most of your buyers, it looks like this. I don't know if you can read that, but it says, can we schedule a 15-minute meeting? Be honest, how many of you in your outbound emails lead with this call to action? Can we schedule a 15-minute meeting? People are like, I don't want to admit, but most of my emails are from a salesperson requesting a 15-minute meeting. My inbox is inundated with these. I have sent thousands of these emails on behalf of my sales teams in the past. It's no longer enough to go and be the most persistent in the customer's inbox. We've got to lead with ideas. I call that brute force marketing. It's like the loudest voice in a room. They're not the ones who get the deal. Who gets the deal are the ones that lead with ideas. Answer these three questions. This should be in every outbound communication you send. Why should I change? Where are things going? What do you know as a vendor that I, as a buyer, don't know?